To the people celebrating Black History Month, as it is February, do you truly know your Black history? Specifically, generations Z, Y, X, and so on and so? I think I want to give you guys some truth today. Let's think out loud and jot it down. Another episode of Letters to the People. Welcome back to another episode of Letters to the People. I'm your host, Lakeitha Bobish, a voice for We the People. If you would like to get involved with the show, any kind of sponsorship or feedback, feel free to email us at letters2thepeople@gmail.com. You may also feel free to give at the donation sites I have linked here in the description. We have a Venmo and a PayPal for right now. So guys, it's February. Happy February. Today is actually February 1st, the day that we're filming. And we know February to be Black History Month here in America. I believe that, everybody's history should be celebrated every single day. But we know specifically that Black History Month is celebrated for the various milestones, the various histories that happened with regard to Africans actually coming over here to the United States. So it has come to my awareness that many who are in the generation after me and even after them don't have the correct understanding of some of the true Black history that took place. And I want to kind of come and debunk some of that today and bring some light and truth into what true Black history really is. Of course, guys, we're going to start with our letter header today, and we're trying out some new features today. So check out the screen and come and see the actual letter header for today. I have two for today, but they're both in Hosea 4. So the first one is Hosea 4:1. And it says, "Hear the word of the Lord, you children of Israel, for the Lord has a legal case with the inhabitants of the land, because there is no faithfulness, no steadfast love or dependability, loyalty or kindness or knowledge of God in the land." We're going to jump right down now to verses 5 and 6, which say, "So you will stumble in the daytime, and the false prophet will also stumble with you in the night, and I will destroy your mother, who is Israel. My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Because you, the priestly nation, have rejected knowledge, I will also reject you from being my priest. Since you have forgotten the law of your God, I will also forget your children." Now, one of the main reasons why I am bringing up this specific scripture has exactly to do with the subject today at hand. We have come in the education system kind of far from actual knowledge, actual truth of the things that really took place way back in history regarding the African slave trade, again, more so known as the Atlantic slave trade, or bringing slaves here to the American shores. When I listen to, again, Generation Z and whoever else they are, they don't even know or realize that it was actually their African ancestors who were the ones that began and sold their ancestors into slavery. Oh yes, that is the very truth of what happened. So people think that, the white folk, the British, the French, the Dutch, they just got off the boats, they went running into the jungle and started plucking up Black people like they were fruit and bananas and just carried them back in chains onto the boat. No, that is not what happened whatsoever. Assimilation did begin to happen once world exploration took place more in the 1600s, 1700s, and places like the continent of Africa, had a lot of resources between gold, silver, oil, the different produce and products that would come out of even livestock. silk. It was a place that was just rich with things that people, explorers, were very interested in trading. So when different African nations saw that the explorers also needed laborers, they decided to come and trade their own people as laborers for riches and gold and things. Oh, Lakita, how do you know all these things? Because I was homeschooled, okay? And in homeschool, I did learn all of these things. And in learning this, and also then going off to college, finding out that many people didn't know this stuff, it was quite appalling. But this is true Black history. So I'm going to go to another article real quick right here to even further prove my point. So this article is called On Unforgettable History, the Slave Castles of Ghana. Now, slave castles were all over the west coast of Africa. As we can see right here, this is one of them. You can see the cannons facing out into the ocean, where the boats would come. Now, why would there be slave castles if it was the Dutch and the British and the French themselves just getting off the boat, running through the land, and chopping down black people like they're coconut trees? No, it just was not the case. These were built in order to hold the slaves there, the people that were captured, again, captured by Africans and placed into these castles, so that people who were on the boats wouldn't have to come all the way onto shore. They were already there waiting for them when the boats came up to shore. So if it wasn't Africans who built this, if it wasn't Africans who were selling their own people, why the heck are there still these African slave castles here on the coast? I'll read here really quick, just one line. It says, millions of the recently enslaved who were enslaved were awaiting transport to the Americas in the Elmina Castle until the Dutch ended their participation in the slave trade, which was in 1814. So the Cape Coast Castle, which is less than 10 miles from the Elmina Castle, was also heavily used during this incredibly brutal chapter in history. Swedish traders also helped to construct it again in the 1600s. So many enslaved Africans passed through here on their way to British colonies in the Americas. So again, please understand, okay, that it was not the white folks who, I keep saying it, were just plucking up Black people out of the jungle, okay, and putting them on the boat. No, they were sold, okay, for just menial things, even like silverware, even, stuff like that was small jewelry, just so that these chiefs, could have status, and that so this could perpetuate on. That is the truth of the matter. Now, when it comes to, why is it that in African nations they speak French and they know English? Because there was the process also when the slave trade ended of assimilating the people to become more civilized in certain nations. I don't have time to go into all of that assimilation part, but that is what happened. Now, we know that the actual slave trade was just horrific. We know that here in America that, man, even thinking about it, remembering some of the history documentaries that I watched, even some of the shows that have come out, like the Underground Railroad show that I watched, it was a horrific time in history, of course, for Black African Americans, or if they came from even the islands, going through that kind of, brutality, being treated as property, being treated, even less kind of than the cattle that was traded, being ripped apart from their families, never seeing their families again, the just punishment of being whipped or going without food or, being put in solitary confinement, or if you tried to escape, being made an example of, by being lynched. And we're going to come back to lynchings in just a moment. But it was a horrific time. Through that time, though, much culture of the African American people was formulated. They are the ones that came up literally with gospel songs. They began to learn how to read, specifically the Bible. That's a lot of where some of the Baptist church comes from. So we need to understand that even during that time that happened, there was some good that came out of it. Many of the black men who once, were freed had the mind of business. Some of them went up north, went to school. You have Booker T. Washington, I mean, so several good things did come out of this. Today, all we want to hear about and talk about is, that happened, so now we should have reparations. We are owed. The white people should be feeling bad and all of these things. But no, that is not the case at all. What? I just talked about this in my last episode. What does anybody who was alive today have to do with the slave trade that took place hundreds of years ago? Nothing. They really don't. And I'm going to link a video down in the description here in my YouTube of Don Lemon just really getting it handed to him by this British lady. After the Queen died, he came out to her and he was like, don't you feel type of way that now that she's dead, that the black people in Britain should be owed reparations, and she was so wealthy? And she gave him the truth. She said, yes, of course, if we want to talk about that, then we should talk about the economical side of it, which is we need to go back to the beginning of the supply chain. How did the slaves get here? Who sold them into slavery? And we find that it was the Africans themselves that sold other Africans into slavery. So who really owes reparations to who? And he was left speechless. I cannot wait for you to see that video. It is just awesome. It is awesome. So now, moving on a little quickly into history, again, we have the civil rights movement, which today is something that I see through social media videos. People don't really understand about it today either. They think the civil rights movement is the women's right to abortion, LGBTQ rights to get married, just, being able to love who you want to love. No, that was not the civil rights movement whatsoever. So once again, here we go. We have a little article here for you for the civil rights movement. Okay, I'm going to just read really quick. The civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s came about out of their need and desire for equality and freedom for African Americans and other people of color. Nearly 100 years after slavery was abolished, there was widespread segregation, discrimination, disenfranchisement, and racially motivated violence that permeated all personal and structural aspects of life for Black people. Okay, the civil rights movement was concerning Black people. It was not women's rights to abortion. It was not gay pride, LGBT. No, that is not what it was. So the fact that Gen Z and XY and all those think that the civil rights movement is included with all of this other stuff shows me that either it's not being taught right in school, or they're not paying attention, or something somewhere got mixed up along the way. The civil rights movement, specifically for this month as we celebrate Black History Month, was one of the biggest milestones in Black history ever in our nation. And it is something to be celebrated. We have so many different leaders that came out of it, specifically Martin Luther King Jr. We have all of his quotes. We celebrate him in January. So the fact that we're hearing this rhetoric is just quite appalling. It's appalling. And so then you have the Jim Crow era during this time. And when all this was said and done, and Black people began to find their voices, began to find their place in society, They began businesses. They were getting, specifically in the South. But then you had racist politicians like Lyndon B. Johnson, okay, who said, oh, man, we can't have the black folk, getting over on the white folk at this point. We can't let them think that they have all this rights and freedoms. And so what happened? The welfare state. Let the government come and, we'll help you. We'll help you get, when in all actuality, that is not what happened. That is why today we see the breakdown of family that we do specifically in the African American culture. I mean, how many black single moms do we have? And they want to stay on welfare and they want to, make money that way because there's no black father in the home. But if they have black father in the home and they make more money, they don't get money from welfare. It is a perpetual cycle that we are seeing in Black America. And it is sad that this is what it has come to. So the breakdown of the black family also leads me to my next point with regard to, of course, abortion. So I have said it before and I will say it again. Abortion is something that is so horrific in our nation. It is literally child sacrifice at this point. The way that the left and the Democrats have come and said and made bills wanting this to continue to take place, even after Roe v. Wade was overturned, to see 210 Democrats vote against the Born Alive bill last month. I was appalled. Appalled. To say that a baby who was born alive during an abortion shouldn't receive any kind of medical care to survive, and you're okay with that, and you're calling it right-wing rhetoric and Republican rhetoric, no, that's evil. It's just evil, okay? So we want to talk about the evils of slavery, right? We want to talk about, all the black people that got lynched and, let's come for that right now. Okay, all the black people that got lynched, that tried to escape, and then so how many black people do you think during that whole slave time got lynched? Again, have another article right here for y'all. Here it is. So we know that slavery started here in the Americas towards the end of the 1700s, beginning of the 1800s. It is recorded that from 1882 to 1968, 4,743 lynchings occurred in the United States. And guess what? Guess what website this is on, guys? What website is this? What website is this? NAACP. The NAACP themselves, okay, have recorded and have put it on their website that only 4,743 lynchings happened during that time of slavery. I am appalled because when we listen in class, when we talk about the horrors of slavery, the horrors of the things that happened to black people, we're led to believe it was hundreds of thousands of lynchings that took place all the time. They were happening all the time. So now here, fast forward to today's history with regard to abortion, specifically black babies that are aborted. There are more black babies aborted across the spectrum, across the statistics, than there are any other race here in America. And it is sad. Very sad. So to have this number that I just gave you from, hey, at this point, who knows, okay? But we will go from, again, 1973, when it became legal, all the way up until 2020, okay? So let's do that really quick. Pull out the statistics on that real quick, okay? Once again, another article here we have to show us just the appalling number of, I'm going to try to say this without crying. I really am going to try to say this without crying. And but it's so hard for me. It really is. Because we want to sit here and talk about the horrors and what happened with the black people in history, but we don't want to talk about the horrors that are happening now with actual babies in the womb who are just not safe there. A yearly national total for abortion in 2020. 2020 itself. Oh, man. So this is just in Washington, D.C. Oh man, I'm trying not to cry. In 2020, 620,327 abortions. That's in 1 year. And over the span of time of almost 100 years, lynchings weren't even half that. Guys, we have come just so far from morality, so far from righteousness and justice. We are literally perishing as a people because of lack of knowledge in this nation. So don't come to me talking about Black history and the horrors and I'm owed and I have the chip on my shoulder because of what happened to my ancestors. And what about what's happening today? The things that are going on in the Black community today. Which, sure, we can blame the government all we want to blame. At the end of the day, though, we all make our own decisions. We are all our own people. We're our own individual person to make our own choices, to make our own decisions. It has become very, very difficult for me to continue to see the perpetuation of what is going on in the Black community. And all continuing to blame it on what happened in history. What happened in history has nothing to do with today, with regard to the choices that are being made by many in the Black community. And there are several prominent Black churches as well who have not come and said the right things, but instead have decided to fuel the flames. So we have Black culture now where, we have the rapping, right? We have the baby mamas, right? We have the sugar daddies, the hip hop, and that's the culture. That's the culture that we really want to perpetuate for our future generations of Black kids. Specifically in North Carolina, Black children have fallen the furthest behind in education. I have that somewhere. I will definitely find it and link that as well, because I researched that for part of my master's thesis, and also during COVID. So, I really implore you to really, really think about the history that you want to leave for the next generation, to look up to, look into, and talk about the true Black history that happened so that, once again, we are not perpetuating falsehoods, but we are perpetuating what is true and what is knowledgeable and what is helpful to know and to understand, so that it will not repeat itself. But what is beginning to happen is, with this placing blame on the white folk, on the police, on the government, how is that helping the Black community to get ahead? By continuing to place blame instead of looking within their own community at what the issues truly are. It's not. It is not helping anything today. So I implore you during this month of Black history to really look into what Black history is. And I'm so excited that we are going to have several guests on the show this month to continue on in what I'm saying here today, that we don't know true Black history and that we're not putting two and two together of the horrors that really did happen then, but the horrors that are continuing to happen still today. And because we lack knowledge in that, we're not putting the two together. Again, I am so sad about it. I am so appalled by it. And I just want our children to understand and know true Black history and how to apply it to their lives today, and understand what happened then and how their lives should be going in a different direction now to better themselves, to better society. So in conclusion today, I hope that, again, maybe I didn't lose too many followers after this, but the truth is the truth. And I hope that you're not one to lack knowledge in the truth. Continue on in looking into the things that really happened back then, and be a voice. Be a voice for truth today. Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you next time. Blessings and best regards, Lakeitha Bobbish, a voice for we the people. And don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe to all our social medias.